So our Lafayette was not yet 2 years old, and he lost his father. He was now Marquis de Lafayette, Baron de Visac, Lord of Saint-Romain, Lord of Fix. You recall he's not yet Lord of Chivagnac. That doesn't come until 1762, when that lien is paid off, you recall. Our Lafayette's mother, Julie, decides that she will return to Paris. Her father, the Marquis, is there. Her grandfather, the Comte de la Riviere, is there, both widowed now. And perhaps she had a plan. This was to become part of the court of Louis XV and pave the way for her son to come into that court. It would be a sinecure, an easy life. Here's one other thing that is often overlooked and little known. Julie was pregnant. Our Lafayette had a sister. When Julie was in Paris on January the 5th, 1760, our Lafayette's sister was born, Marie Louise Jacqueline Dumotier de Lafayette. She died 3 months later, April of 1760. We don't know the details. That story always reminds me of Ernest Hemingway. Somebody put a challenge to Hemingway one time and said, compose a story, so the challenge goes, using 6 words only. And here's what Hemingway said: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. It's sad. Colonel Lafayette died without a will. Listen, lesson learned. Any age, if property is part of the arena, a will is necessary. Fortunately, Julie was able to retrieve her property. It would have been a spectacular loss otherwise. Marie Catherine, our Lafayette's grandmother, a very practical woman that she was concerned because the bank accounts were meager. You recall 4 campaigns, Michel Louis. Therefore, on October the 6th, 1759, this would be 1 month after Michel Louis died, 1 month after our Lafayette's birthday, 2 months after Michel Louis died. Marie Catherine wrote King Louis XV asking for a pension for our Lafayette. She argued that since Michel Louis had been so loyal to the king, 4 campaigns, and because the bank accounts were drained, that our young Lafayette would go wanting for certain needs, education for one. Well, King Louis found this compelling, and Lafayette did get a pension, 600 livres per year. With interest, that amounted to 780 livres per year by the time Lafayette terminated the pension in 1785. Marie Catherine, again, shrewd and savvy and smart. Young Lafayette's finances were now becoming complex. All these lands that he owned, the income that he had, those finances were supervised by a lawyer, Jean Girard. Girard had a reputation for honesty and disinterestedness. Lafayette, by all accounts, never had this sense of looking over his shoulder, of being fleeced. Lafayette never had a desire to sit down by candlelight in the middle of the night and count every penny. Never. And part of the reason was because of confidence in a very honest Jean Girard. Another big deal in our Lafayette's life. Our Lafayette early on was under female influence. This cannot be underestimated. First, there was Marie Catherine, who was kind and yet decisive, and Lafayette observed that behavior, observed her interaction with peasants, with people on a lower tier than she was, and he took that to heart. There was also Marguerite Madeline. You remember Marguerite Madeline? She had no desire to get married, no desire to leave Chivagnac. She doted on our Lafayette. She's the one that told him about the stories about his uncle, Jacques Roche, and the Battle of Polish Succession. She's the one that told him about his father and the Battle of Minden and the courage that was there. And he found those stories thrilling. That was a big part of his education. When Lafayette was 4, this would be about 1761, 3 things happened. First, his Aunt Louise Charlotte came back to Chivoniac. Her husband had died in May. She had a daughter. That would be Louise Marie. They both came back to Chivoniac. Louise Marie was 3 years older than our Lafayette, but they were best friends. They texted all the time. They called it talking to one another. They had their Xboxes. They called it playing outside. They were BFFs, and this is in a big way. She was a confidant, not to be underestimated. Second, Lafayette's only uncle on his mother's side, you remember Louis Henri, died. He was 10 years old. This put our Lafayette in line for the Riviere fortune. And third, his mother, Julie, was presented at the court of Louis XV. She was on her way, following that algorithm and paving the way for our Lafayette to be part of that court. Well, it was time to shore up Lafayette's education, our Lafayette's education, so Marie Catherine hired an abbé. This is French for abbot. So an abbot was part of the clergy, but part of the lower tier. So they wore these black frocks and a thin collar, and they were tonsured. So the head shaved, except for that little rim around the edge. And many of these abbés served as tutors. So when Lafayette was 5, Marie Catherine found him a tutor. The only thing we know about that tutor is that Lafayette said he was intelligent. But for some reason, it didn't work out. When Lafayette was 7, Marie Catherine found a tutor that stayed with Lafayette into adulthood. That would be the Abbé Féon.